Greetings. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I'm Lexi Eve, and today I'm going to be starting a series on grade signs of specific magical orders such as Golden Dawn and AA, as well as other magical gestures. So, I'm going to get right into this, starting off with AA's Probationer grade, 0 degree equals 0 square. In my video about the bell from Liber Alba, as I spoke about a section from Liber O about intoning divine names, I glossed over using the sign of the enter and the sign of silence, as per that text. Like all grade signs of AA, these are not mere physical gestures. They are dynamic, have power, and require a high degree of spiritual and mental aptitude to harness the power of them. They are both grade signs of the Probationer, 0 degree equals 0 square. This grade is the first step into the order, but the magician is in the world of the shells, not yet in Magucal, or on the Tree of Life for that matter, thus the number of the degree. The sign of the enter is attributed to Horus, Rahor Kuid. Sign of silence, Harpocrates, which is Horparkrat in the Book of the Law. The former is active, the latter passive. These two signs are used in conjunction, the sign of the Emperor first and the sign of silence after, though the sign of silence can and often is used alone. Off the top of the head, however, also there is one place that the sign of the Emperor is used alone, and that's in Liber V Vel Reguli. I'll get more into that in a sec. So let's start off with the sign of the Emperor, and I'll give you the description here. The sign of the Emperor is performed by taking a step forward with the left foot, and then leaning the body forward while thrusting out with both hands, fingers outstretched, as if reaching for something. This grade sign can be used without speaking, but I will give examples where when you're giving the sign of the Emperor, you do say something while giving the gesture. An example where you give the sign of the Emperor without saying something would be Liber V Vel Reguli. In the second gesture of the ritual, as you are advancing around the circumference of your circle, when you make a complete revolution and are back at the point which faces Boleskine, you give the sign of the Emperor. There is no spoken word for this example. Now, I'll give two more examples, and these are by no means definite. You could choose to do these rituals and this grade sign in a different way, but my experience, this is how I prefer to give the sign of the enter during these two examples. So number one is in Liber Israfel. When you first begin using the invocation, verse 1 says, quote, Procul o procul este profani, end quote, and line 2 says, quote, Balasti ompeda, end quote. So for verse 1 here, I give the sign of the Emperor as I speak, Procul o procul este profani, and then I come back into the sign of silence, focus for a moment while using this second grade sign. Then, finally, I swing my forefinger from my lips back and down to the right, like you would do in the Star Ruby ritual, finally saying the words of verse 2, Balasti ompeda. Second example, like is done in each quarter of the Star Ruby ritual. Sometimes when I perform the lesser ritual of the pentagram, or hexagram, after drawing the pentagram in a quarter, I pause, then intone the word of that quarter as I give the sign of the Emperor, withdrawing from there into the sign of silence before I draw a portion of the circle to the next quarter. For pentagram and hexagram rituals, you can simply point to the center of the astrally drawn pentagram or hexagram and intone the divine name as you point into the symbol's mist. You don't have to give this grade sign, but I prefer to project the divine name. So for the East, Yod He Vav He, I prefer to project with the sign of the Emperor as I intone, project it from my voice and physically from my body forward into the pentagram. I look at the use of the sign of the Emperor like this. It is an active symbol, and you are stepping forward and actually throwing your upper body forward into your step as if charging forward or making an assault on whatever is before you, on the universe itself. When you are saying or intoning something while giving this sign, I see it as propelling your spoken word into the universe, loud enough and far enough that God itself can hear your war cry. Your words should ripple through the depths of the universe, on and on. You are attacking, therefore anything malignant or of illusion of the Maya in the direction you are facing should be beat down and shattered. Only light should remain. All shadows should be banished. You then withdraw to the sign of silence, and I see this as you are then waiting for a response from God. You are then, you speak your word forward, and now you're waiting for the response back in the sign of silence. You become the blue ascending triangle of the holy hexagram, having sent forth your orisons into the universe, now actively awaiting God to answer back to your call. So the sign of silence, and here's the description of the sign, quote, standing upright, left hand at the side, place the tip of the index finger of the right hand just on the lower lip, end quote. Note also that the sign of silence is based upon the image of Hippocrates. He often is depicted giving the sign of silence with his forefinger, but there are images too where he uses his thumb instead. Now, I just explained what I experience and perceive as happening when in the sign of silence after retreating from the sign of the Emperor. You're passively waiting for a response from divinity, from the universe, from your holy guardian angel. You put a word forward, and now in the sign of silence you're waiting for that response backwards, back from. But there is more, for the sign of silence can and should very often be used by itself. While giving this sign, you should breathe steadily and gently, stilling your mind and allowing only silence internally. Having achieved stillness and silence, you should then focus upon your body of light, the egg-shaped astral light that surrounds each and every one of us, your aura. See it grow stronger and denser. Once it is vibrant as you could get it, see it crystallize so that it is so strong that nothing can penetrate it. Doing this makes it impossible for a negative energy to affect you. When people throw maliciousness at you, whether through word or the evil eye, you should be protected as long as your aura remains crystallized. Think of it like this. Someone sending negativity at you is like them throwing a golf ball at a wall, which ricochets back and instead of harming you, pings them between the eyes. It does not create a permanent barricade and will inevitably deteriorate. Much like the effects of the LBRP, there is a shell life to these things, depending on how well you perform the sign. The LBRP I find lasts about 24 hours. The sign of silence, most likely much less than that. Aside from that, I use the sign frequently throughout the day as needed, especially during conversations, when the urge to respond to someone mid-sentence crops up in my mind. Instead of cutting them off and interjecting, I give the sign of silence, still my mind, allowing them to finish what they are saying, whilst I become more receptive and can actually take in what they are saying. Plus, I can use it with nobody even knowing that I'm doing magic, as it just makes a person look as if they are really paying attention and thinking deeply about what you are telling them. Alternatively, if I find that something has gotten me emotionally or overly excited, even anxious, the silence comes in perfect. It's great for such an example to still your internal world, silence feelings, and allow you to be a little bit more objective with what's going on. So the sign of silence is of the utmost value. Love is the law, love under will. That's it on this. It's a little bit shorter than most videos, but just wanted to cover these two great signs and help you use them. Yeah, the sign of silence is very important. Now you know how to do it, and you should be practicing it multiple times a day as needed. Cheers.